Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Today we have a bit of a sad story, but leading a fight back. There was a lady who we will be calling, for the purpose of this video, Sarah. Sarah, a few years ago, was attacked. She was in her 20s. She's in her 40s now. When I say attacked, she was AR'd. She has sought counselling from a charity, the Survivors Network, based in Brighton, and they have helped her to cope by sort of letting her have the catharsis of talking it through, of meeting fellow survivors, of building strength, of having a network of friends who have gone through the same thing that they can relate to, help each other sort of in adversity. She is now suing that survivors group because they've allowed a man in. How this is right, nobody knows. We're going to take a look at the article. I will probably be a bit upset about it, a bit angry about it, because I think it's ultimately very, very wrong. But we'll go through the article. I will, of course, because of the YouTube algorithm, I will have to use various terminology and expressions to get around that. So please bear with it. But this is definitely worth a look. So here we are. An R victim sues SV charity after she suffered a panic attack when trans women began attending support group meetings while wearing men's clothes. So this man, who claims to be a woman but dresses as a man, starts attending a group for women who have been AR'd by a man. And nobody stopped it. And nobody said, actually, this is quite inappropriate. This is wrong. Get the hell out. They allowed it. The organiser of this group allowed that. They will have traumatised the people attending those groups, those meetings. Sarah, in her mid-40s, was damaged as a child before being AR'd while in her 20s. She'd been benefiting from visiting the Brighton-based Survivors Network, but she felt unable to speak and had panic attacks after a trans woman joined the group. You know, you can't work out how they've allowed this. Who even thought this was acceptable? The claimant, known only as her alias Sarah, was, damaged by a family friend as a child and by a man she knew when she was in her 20s. The mother of two said she ultimately had to stop going to the sessions run by the Survivors Network and is now suing the Brighton-based charity for indirect discrimination, victimisation and harassment. The action will be a test case following the recently updated guidance from the Equality and Human Rights Commission regarding trans people's access to certain services. And indeed, this came about that they were now legally, it is legal to ban trans from women-only safe spaces, women-only services. So there is no reason why the people running this group shouldn't have said, no, you're a man, go away. Anyway, in April, here we are. In April, the EHRC said that in certain places, such as hospital wards or changing rooms, single-sex services can be offered which prevent, limit or modify transgender people from attending if it's a proportionate means of achieving a legitimate aim and balances the needs of service users. I think having a man in the middle of an R group session certainly qualifies. But Sarah's lawyer, Kate Lee, said more clarification is needed from the courts over the issue, telling the BBC, "We see this very much as a test case. We need further guidance in this area." She added, "We recognise there are really difficult decisions to be made by service providers. This one is not difficult. This one is the clearest line in the sand. This is a black and white case. This is absolutely set in stone." Sarah, now in her 40s, said that she thinks Survivors Network should have offered separate groups for trans and cisgender victims, adding, "I think my case is about women's rights." She is absolutely correct. But the Brighton-based charity said it will only fight against the claim as trans women are welcome into all our women-only spaces, adding that Sarah knew of their trans-inclusive policy when she first began attending. Yeah, but you don't expect a man dressed as a man, pretending to be a woman, to come in to where there's vulnerable women who've been attacked by men. Lawyers for Sarah argue that the charity failed to meet the needs of all victims of SV by not offering sessions strictly for women who were born female, i.e. strictly for women. Because that man who thinks he's a woman or pretends to be a woman is a man and should never be in that group. The case is being brought under the Equality Act. Sarah said she had been benefiting from the sessions before a new member arrived, presenting as typically male and donning stereotypically male clothing. I was a bit taken aback. I decided I wasn't going to speak that week because I was not comfortable. I don't trust men because I've been R'd by a man. I have been SA'd by men. And I just don't necessarily trust that men are always who they say they are. And despite being uncomfortable, she claims the person running the session asked her to speak to the group. I felt manipulated and coerced into talking. And when I left the session, I had a panic attack. I was absolutely distraught. And who can blame her otherwise? Having gone through such a trauma, physical and emotional, and a trauma like that, and then being forced by a group to stand and confront a man in a group like that. The people running this, I mean, they need to be prosecuted. This case is a test case, and it absolutely has to find for Sarah and against that group, and there needs to be a huge fine, and resulting in the firing of the people running that group. I mean, not just firing, but disbarment from running any other kind of group. Survivors Network told the BBC it is yet to receive any documents pertaining to the legal action. It rejected Sarah's suggestion that she was forced to speak to the group. It would say that, wouldn't it? Saying every survivor is given a handbook which clearly states they should only talk if they feel comfortable. It added, in both the assessment and in the handbook, it is explained that all women, including trans women, are welcome in the women-only group, which is wrong. The claimant was made aware of the Survivors Network trans-inclusive position prior to attending the group. It's still wrong. Sarah said she's not transphobic, but felt a trans woman changed the dynamic and atmosphere of the support group. Well, it would, because there's a man in there. She said, I think it's fantastic that trans survivors feel there is a safe space for them, but it's not a mixed space for me. I'm going to round off and come up there. I quite agree with her, and I think most people will. Now, it'll be interesting to see the results of the trial on this one, as if it goes to court and they don't settle beforehand. But I think ultimately it must be clear in law. It must be made clear in law that where you have vulnerable women, such as Sarah, in a situation like that, it is patently obvious that you cannot have men in that room. Even the mentally ill men who think they'd like to be women, they must be disbarred. It would cause so much more further trauma and mental anguish to people that it should just be a matter of course. But ultimately, that group is wrong for letting that man in. And I don't care what their inclusive policy is. Their inclusive policy is bollocks. Anyway, round off. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notifications of future output. Leave a like, leave a comment, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, and goodbye.